All right. So today I'm going to share with you guys my first ayahuasca experience. So this just happened within the last 7 days. So it's very fresh in my mind. I have a ton of notes that I wrote after my ceremonies. So I'm probably going to be referencing them. So my first time doing this was at Rythmia in Costa Rica. And honestly, I'm just so grateful for this place. You can see in my previous video, I'll talk more about that. If you're interested in looking where you might want to do it, I highly suggest Rythmia because doing ayahuasca is not easy, but Rythmia at least makes it as comfortable as humanly possible. And for someone like me, I was not going to go to the jungle and do this. And, there might be some controversy around that statement. Some people might say it needs to be done in this setting, it needs to be done this way. But honestly, the type of healing that is possible with this plant medicine, I hope that everybody in the world could experience this one day. And I really believe that the more people that have access to this plant medicine will actually change the world because you cannot leave the experience being the same person that you were prior to that. Now, before this experience of doing ayahuasca, which, by the way, you do the ceremony for 4 nights in a row. It is really intense and it is a full body experience. But one of the things before doing this, and for years, and if you guys watch some of my older lives and some of my older Q&A videos, people had asked me, would you ever do ayahuasca? Would you ever do it? And I was like, definitely not. Because when I was younger, I used to do drugs and I know how uncomfortable that is. So I don't want to be uncomfortable. I don't want to puke. I don't want to crap my pants. Okay. Um, but and I have written in my notes, which I actually wrote while on ayahuasca. And I said, I can't believe that I almost allowed discomfort to prevent me from experiencing true liberation. And when I say that I am completely liberated, I mean from everything that has happened in my life up until this point, good, bad, everything. I feel completely newborn, completely brand new, and I'm beyond grateful for this medicine. I'm beyond grateful for Rythmia, for the experience. And some of the things that I want to share is that if you are afraid of doing this, because I was afraid of doing this, do not let the fear of discomfort prevent you from truly healing. And any of you guys who follow me, you know that I do the work. I do the spiritual work, I do the self help, the personal development. I do it all. I've been doing work for so long and I've been aware of a lot of my problems for a really long time. So it never made sense to me why there was this disconnect between my mind and some of the circumstances in my life. I didn't understand why, how could I have this really strong will and this smart, capable mind and this positive outlook on the world, but still to be facing financial struggles and more than anything, relationship struggles and my issues with men. And it was just all of this spiritual work that I do, it was so difficult for me to get beyond my issues with men. And of course, that goes into other things that have happened in my life. Now, I have done a previous video. I did one right before this about Rythmia. So I'm not going to get too much into the facility and why I really appreciate it and why I think that they are a great way to do this. And my video before that is going to also talks about some of the experience that I had in ayahuasca and some of my personal stuff that I was healed from. So I'm going to briefly touch on those things in this video, but if you're interested in hearing more about the facility or also my experience of things that happened in my life that actually led to this disconnect between my mind and my body, because if you've ever read The Body Keeps the Score, you know that the issues are in your tissues. The trauma is in the fascia. The all the crazy stuff that ever happened to you is living in your cells. So that is probably the greatest thing that this medicine does, in my opinion. And I have found, and I haven't done a ton of research on ayahuasca. It was just not something I was very interested in at all. And my experience of doing it really was a miracle of how it came about. And I've talked about that already, on my TikTok and Instagram. So, and I'll repost that here. So I won't retell that story. I'm going to kind of keep this video to my ayahuasca experience. And this video is actually going to be about the first 3 nights of ceremony. And then I'm going to do a separate video for the fourth night, because that one alone was crazy. I lost my mind. I saw the Matrix for what it is. I experienced the world from the observer of the Godhead. We are basically living in some type of hologram experiment. It's completely neutral. My experience was that this Godhead was not really love. It was just completely neutral. It was as if in a petri dish, there is no right or wrong in a petri dish. It all is. Sometimes the bad bacteria is stronger, sometimes the good bacteria is stronger. And that's what I experienced. So I'm actually going to do that in an entirely different video, because also that was my experience with Yahe, which is a older, more sacred, more protected form of ayahuasca that comes from Colombia. And there are very select shamans in the world who are allowed to work with this medicine, who have access to it, because the Inga tribe in Colombia has protected it for so long. And I was grateful enough that on night 4, one of those shamans came to Rythmia and administered this medicine. And that was a wild ride. That's one that started at 6 p.m. and then went until almost 10 a.m. in the morning. So that was a whole nother experience. I'll probably end up calling that video how I lost my mind on ayahuasca, because I really did. But I'm here to live to tell about it. But I want to talk about my first 3 nights, which I feel are a little bit closer to more of a traditional ayahuasca experience. So this all happens in the Maloka, which is a sacred room, a sacred space. And this room in Rythmia, it's really incredible that they use it for when you're there to do the yoga and the breath work, it feels like a different room that you're in when you are doing the ayahuasca. And it's just wild that it's the same place. So I think I want to start just by right at the beginning and the first night. So basically, they have one of the reasons that I really enjoyed Rythmia is that it's very comfortable the way that they set it up for you. So you have a twin mattress on the floor that is super comfortable, clean sheets, a nice big fluffy pillow that is clean and fresh, and you have a little Rythmia blanket that's perfectly folded. You have a clean bucket, and you have a roll of toilet paper. Anything else that you want to bring, you're allowed to bring with you. But, if that's crystals, a change of clothes, a notebook, a pen, as far as what to wear, a lot of people wore all white and dressed more ceremonial. I actually wore sweatpants a lot of the time. So, you guys know that I work with the Galactic Federation of Light brand. So I actually was wearing their clothes, their light worker hoodie and their galactic pants. So I was one of the few people wearing dark colors on that day. And that actually was pretty cool, because each night I kind of went a little lighter, and then on the last night wore white. So I actually felt like a purification process happening. And I also didn't really care about looking the part, because I wanted to be comfortable. I didn't know what I was in store for. So, when we first get the medicine, specifically at Rythmia, they give you this little glass in this little type of shot glass, ceramic little shot glass, or maybe glass, I don't know. And basically, they give you that, and you use that for all of your nights of ceremony, and you're also responsible for cleaning it. So when you clean it at the end of the night, you wash it out with water and with your finger, get all of the ayahuasca off the sides, and then you give it back to Mother Earth at the end. So you don't just like clean it and wash it down the drain. So that is your cup, and then you get to take it home. And I don't know, I plan on drinking something else out of this one day. I don't know what I'm going to drink out of that little cup, but I just love it so much because that cup was a huge part of my journey. So, on the first day after taking that first cup, I want to say if you've never done ayahuasca before, um, I think the first time you do it, that the taste is not too bad. I think over time, when people do it a lot, they start to find the taste to become worse. But what the crazy thing was is in the group, everyone talked about the taste being completely different. For me, I actually felt it tasted kind of like I don't know, Greek coffee, like the Greek coffee that is like very grainy and thick, the type that they read fortunes with, or like Turkish coffee is very similar. So it was kind of like that, a little bit thicker, a little bit. There is an aspect of it that feels a little syrupy too. But to me, it tasted kind of like a mocha coffee with like way too much grinds and maybe a little dirt in it. Other people say it tastes like all different things. That was my experience. Some people said it's extremely bitter. I didn't find that, but I felt it was extremely earthy, very earthy. And so the first cup that I had ever had, they filled it all the way up to the brim. And you go up to the shamans. They give you an introduction. And I'll talk a little bit about the shamans in a minute because that was kind of also a part of my learning journey. But just as far as the formality of it, the shamans will give you an introduction. They'll kind of set the tone for everybody. And the first night, we had a male shaman and a female assistant. And then there's about 6 or 7 guardians and then 6 or 7 helpers. So in total, we have about 12 to 15 people each night. And in my experience at Rythmia, we had a group of 40. Now, I've heard it can go up much higher. Some people have said they've experienced groups of 90. But those people that I knew that were in this same group as me who had been there previously said that when it goes up in that number, there is also a lot of extra helpers. So there's still a great ratio of helpers to people that are there for the ceremony. Now, I didn't realize this the first night that the shaman also takes the ayahuasca, and so do all of the helpers and all of the assistants. So everybody in that room is on ayahuasca. There are no people that are completely sober. So, wow, the service that they do by taking this medicine is wow, 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 wow. So we go up and we form 2 lines, one from the shaman and one from his helper. And the first night it was a male shaman with a female helper. And he actually was not very fluent in English. So she translated. So he spoke in Spanish and then she repeated it and translated in English. I ended up drinking from her. And I'll get a little bit into that in a minute. And I also want to share before I start that one of the things that I really love about Rythmia is the intentions. So, anytime you're about to do any type of anything, really, even when you wake up in the morning, you should set an intention. But if you're going to do any type of plant medicine, it's good to have an intention of what you're trying to experience, and it makes it more ceremonial. So, one of the things that is great about Rythmia is they have 3 intentions that they suggest everybody use. And these are all encompassing intentions because they were given to the founder by Mother Ayahuasca herself. So, ayahuasca, like I said, it's not actually something that I've done a lot of research on. And this experience was very a miracle how it happened. So I actually didn't do much research before going, which is crazy because you guys know what a researcher I am and I dig into everything. So I also think part of me not having a lot of information about this was beneficial to me and was in divine order. So it's the stem combined with the leaf, and then that's what creates basically this DMT effect in your mind in the most simplified way. And so the intentions behind this medicine, So that's what the medicine is. But then there's a spirit of the medicine, and that is Mother Ayahuasca. And it is very, like, you might not believe in it, but when you do it, you know it. You feel her, you experience her, and you have to surrender to her and trust her. And I think that's why I had a much easier experience than some of the other people there. Of course, I've done a lot of the work. Also, thankfully, I didn't really have medical issues to focus on. And I've done a lot of the mental work. So, what Mother Ayahuasca told me is that she was going to be working on my body, which was surprising to me because I am in good health and I thought that I was not going to have her working on my body. But actually, it's the issues are in the tissues, the traumas in the fascia. So that's actually what she spent most of her time working on. And I'm so grateful that I also have a strong intuitive sense. So between my higher self and Mother Ayahuasca, I was able to get a lot of messages about what they were working on. So when I was having these horrible feelings, physically, I didn't get scared because I was being reassured by my higher self the whole time as to what was happening. So, these three intentions that have been given to the founder by Mother Ayahuasca, the spirit of the medicine herself, is show me what I have become, merge me back with my soul at all costs, and heal my heart. Now, I had the intention of healing my heart since months before I even knew Rythmia existed or that I would be going to Rythmia. So the fact that that was one of their intentions was just extremely aligned. And everyone was like, well, what do you want to work on when you're there? And I'm like, you know what? I just want to focus on my heart. I really just need to break through because I felt this block in me my whole life. I felt this block in my heart my whole life. And I actually went with the intention of thinking I needed a whole brand new heart. And the night before the first ayahuasca ceremony, we did breath work. And breath work can also create DMT inside your body. So you can sometimes have an even more psychedelic experience from heavy breath work. And what they teach you at Arrhythmia is that breath work is work. And it sure is. This is not just easy breathing. But they have you do some really intense breath work the night before. And during that breath work, my higher self and what I believe to be somewhat in communication already with Mother Ayahuasca before I had accepted her into my body was that you don't need a new heart. You've got a great heart. What you need to do is share your heart and stop protecting it and stop shielding it and having a guard up. And they also told me that I was going to forgive my father. So that was what they told me the night before. And that was definitely the thing that happened the next night. So, with these three intentions, you can do other things if you want. However, those other intentions are fully encompassed in it. If you know what you have become and you've been merged with your soul at all costs, then you heal your heart. Then your career, your relationship, and all of that is kind of trivial. And not to say that those things are not important, but when you get this higher understanding and this higher healing, everything else is easier to see through your own lens. You don't need Mother Ayahuasca to show you about your career when you are able to connect fully with yourself and your heart and your soul. Then you can see with your own eyes what your journey is in your relationships and this and that, you know? So they also talk about how like 96% of people who go to Rhythmia experience a miracle while they're there. I absolutely did. I experienced my miracle on the first night of ayahuasca. And, other people had to wait a little bit longer. But what Mother Ayahuasca, told me is that I needed to heal my miracle was that I healed my heart because I didn't even know how to. I've tried, I've done the meditations, I've done these things, but I still had so much fear around being hurt or betrayed by people because I've been constantly hurt and betrayed by people throughout my life. And I'm very strong because my heart's been closed. So I just trek on again and again after these things happen. But I couldn't live this way. I can't have a fulfilling life to the fullest that I need to experience it until I did that. And I've known that and I've got that message intuitively for a while. And I had actually seen in meditation a couple months prior, I was at the Conscious Life Expo, and the Monroe Institute actually, I've been very lucky. And the Monroe Institute set up a VIP meditation, and me and my friend and one of my followers who came uh, to Conscious Life Expo, they set this up for us and some of the people on their team. So I got to do like a full blown, it's through their Expand app, some of their gateway experience, like their kind of evolved gateway experience. And so when I did that meditation, I saw vaguely something, but I still had interviews to do and I had work to do at that conference. So I was like, don't you dare make me cry. So actually, then later that night, when I was driving home, I saw the complete image that began in my mind. And I know I'm getting off track here, but this is just really important as to how I got onto this heart healing journey. And then when I was driving home that night from Conscious Life Expo, I started bawling, crying because I saw the full image. When I was under the Gateway Experience meditation, and this was in February of this year, and now we are currently in August. So 6 months prior, I had seen that this like blue, cold desert type place. But then when I was driving home, I saw the rest and I saw that my heart was in that place and that my heart was almost like kind of like in a treasure chest and that it was underneath something. So, this place where this treasure had been hidden, my heart had been hidden, it is a safe place. It is protected, but it's so isolated and so hidden that people forgot it was there, that people stopped looking for it, that I even stopped looking for it, that you could walk above it and walk past it and not even know that there's this treasure right below. So since then, I just have been getting this message of you need to heal your heart. You need to heal your heart. And then this amazing opportunity for me to go to Rythmia happened. And then their main intention there is to heal your heart. So that was my intention going in. And on the first night, it really was. And so you guys have if you've previously watched my stuff, if you watch my Soul series, I'll also link that below. I talk about something that they say before you are born, you choose your life. And before you choose your life, the very last thing you do before incarnating into a human body is something that they call like a recognition class. In this book by Dr. Michael Newton called Journey of Souls, it might also be in the sequel, Destiny of Souls. If you watch the Soul series, I compare all the work from all these different past life regressionists and in between life regressions. It's really a beautiful piece because it encompasses all the things to do with reincarnation, past lives, and soul families, soulmates, all of it. And so there is a part where they say the very last thing you do before you incarnate into a human's body is you go to a recognition class, and you and your soul family basically go to what is like a class. Of course, we're using human terms because we don't know what it's called on the other side. But they say that you're shown some key moments in your life. You're shown a couple of things that are they don't need to be pivotal, but they're important for that moment. There's something important in that moment. And sometimes, it could be, one of the examples in the book was these two soulmates meet. And in the recognition class, he had this deja vu feeling when he saw her smile because he had already seen that before being born. And she had deja vu when he stepped on her foot when they were having their first dance. So these little moments of deja vu are oftentimes remembrance of the recognition class before we're born. So a lot of times when you're having deja vu, it might not be a super significant moment, but it's kind of this confirmation of you've already seen this. This is the path you're supposed to be on. So, there was a altar in the middle of the room during this ayahuasca experience. I'm going to backtrack into the beginning of how it started, but this was really how my heart healed and how my miracle came was because I looked at this altar and I was like, gosh. And so there was like crystals and stuff on there. And there was like a tiger or a jaguar head and a wooden parrot and these two little golden trinkets. And I was like, well into my ayahuasca experience already. I had already been under the influence of it for several hours. And I finally, had the strength to go up and check out the altar. And I was looking at it and I'm like, huh, these little gold trinkets look so familiar. Where do I know them from? Where have I seen these? And then I look and I'm like, huh, that tiger looks so damn familiar. I'm like, geez. And that red parrot too. Where have I seen all these before? And then I was like, oh my God. It's, and because I know this, I'm grateful enough that I have this knowledge. I was like, oh my God, I remember these because it was a deja vu feeling, but it wasn't a deja vu feeling. And, also because I was under the influence of the ayahuasca, it wasn't just your typical deja vu feeling, but I was like, oh my God, I know where I know these from. I saw these before I was born. And then I knew, like, wow, I'm really supposed to be here and this is all really supposed to happen. And I already experienced this before I was born of how I was going to heal my heart. So then I went back to my mattress on the floor and then I was in love with my toilet paper and I was just so happy and I was like, "Oh my god, I was just then wonderfully ecstatic and was just like, "Oh my god, I just love everything and I love everyone and I'm so grateful and I've never felt so full and so full of love in my whole life." And I still am carrying that feeling. That's why I'm wearing these earrings that I bought in Costa Rica. I'm not one of these people that like goes to Latin America once and then all of a sudden starts like answering everything in like Spanglish. I just really want to anchor in the energy, and these are super beautiful, but I really want to just like anchor in the energy of all that feeling into my daily life. So whatever way I can do that, I bought incense, the smoke that they burn during the ceremony, so that I can also remind it. I found a lot of the music from the ceremony, which, by the way, the music at Rythmia is so good. And so these are some ways that I am making sure to remind myself to bring in the energy from this beautiful experience. So let's talk about I had my first cup, and then they suggest that you sit upright for as long as you can, at least like 20 minutes, because they say that it's going to make you a lot more nauseous to lay down. And that's what I love. And you can go back and watch the previous video. They have tons of classes before you do the medicine and also throughout the week, which help you to get the best experience. Down to after you drink the medicine, it's best to keep your eyes closed and sit upright at least until it gets down to your stomach so that you don't feel like you have to purge so quickly. And so that was like, I got that first cup and it started wrecking through my body. And right away, I felt it like all down and into this. It was so rough and so intense. And it felt like, ooh, like sludge inside of you. And so they also do something where they call it noble silence. So after the medicine is blessed, then you're not allowed to speak to anyone except for the helpers and the shamans and the people that are there working and helping. And you're also not really like, supposed to chat with them. You ask them if you need something. But the noble silence is once the medicine gets blessed or is starting to be blessed, that is time that the silence begins until the ceremony is over the next morning. Or on these nights you start around 5:30 and then the ceremony ends around 1:30, and then you have like a little 30-minute conversation, you touch base, and then go back to your room after that. And it is great to go back to a nice, clean, nice hotel room with great AC after you just went through all of that. So during this noble silence, it can take about an hour to 90 minutes, depending, and it's fully dark in the room and there's no music playing, and it is just pure silence, and you sit with it. And that is while the medicine starts to work through your body. So for me, okay, now to get a little graphic, because I know you guys are wondering about the vomiting and the going to the bathroom, because I know a lot of people, that's the number one question that they ask. And that's the number one question I used to ask before I experienced ayahuasca myself, because that was my greatest concern was I don't want to crap my pants. Thankfully, my higher self and Mother Aya continued to communicate with me when it was time to get up and go to the bathroom. And don't trust a fart, they said in the class. In one of the classes beforehand, they also teach you how to vomit, which they say on all fours is the way. I was looking around, seeing some people were not using the all fours method. And I don't know if they were afraid of getting on all fours, but it looked like it was much harder for them. And they also say don't trust a fart. So I definitely remembered that from class too, because I'm a very studious student. So within the noble silence, so in this maloka, in this sacred room that they do this in, there's 6 bathrooms that are accessible to you. So there's more than enough bathrooms. You're not going to like go to the bathroom on yourself waiting for someone else to come out. And also the way the medicine works, it's going through everybody. So it almost like the point that it tells you to go, once you walk to the door, someone is walking out. Like you barely have to wait. And they also have a really good system of you don't lock the door. If the door is closed, someone's in there. When you leave the door open. So, and they have the lights set up so no one turns on the lights. It's only like very dim lighting in there because your eyes are very sensitive. Every single detail is so well thought out. Now, you're not allowed to flush the toilet paper because you can imagine how much those toilets go through every single week. When you've got 40 to 80 people on ayahuasca and everyone's purging out both ends, um, the toilet paper cannot be flushed. But obviously, it's a habit. So, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes into this noble silence, my stomach is and I'm like, oh no, I'm just going to wait. And I start hearing people start going to the bathroom. And because it's so silent, and it's also in Costa Rica, and it's also like not like you're getting outside noise pollution or light pollution from other places. And this is a um, closed retreat. It's very quiet. So I would hear people go into the bathroom like, ooh, okay, gosh, oh man, I don't want to do that. But also I need to. So I maybe got 30 minutes into the noble silence and I'm like, oh man, I gotta go. And of course, in the noble silence, my ass is loud. Loud. I'm like, oh my God, I'm ruining everyone's ceremony. And it's like blah, 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 like brutal. Brutal, brutally loud, brutally embarrassing. I'm also under the medicine now, and they have this sacred geometry painting in the bathroom. And me and this sacred geometry painting are really vibing. And I'm like, oh man, oh man. I'm like, and I'm trying to like not be so loud, but you can't control it. It is purging stuff out of your body. And actually, right before the purge started, um, thankfully, like I said, I'm so grateful for my intuitive sense and my ability to be able to communicate with my higher self, which made it easier for me to communicate also with Mother Ayahuasca. And she told me right away, right when this started ripping through my body, she was like, and what I had always said, the reason I was afraid to do this is because I did drugs when I was younger. I know how uncomfortable they were. She's like, oh, those drugs that you did when you were younger, that's exactly what we're removing from your body. And it's interesting that you were so afraid to come here and do it because that's the first thing that we need to work on. I was like, oh, hmm, interesting. What a coinkydink. So I'm blowing up the bathroom hardcore. But then I flushed the toilet paper because I forgot because it's a natural thing that you're used to doing. And I clogged the toilet. I freaking clogged the toilet 30 minutes into the noble silence of this sacred ceremony. So I come back to my bed after, and I'm like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do? Oh no, I'm going to ruin the ceremony. And I've already ruined the ceremony by my ass blowing out like crazy, like a freaking trumpet. So then I lay down and I like 30 seconds later, I'm like, I can't, I gotta tell somebody. And then so I like turn around and I see like one of the helper guys. And I didn't know at this point that they were on the ayahuasca too. So it's also hitting them. And now they need to be on the medicine in order to know what to do because literally the way the medicine brings them to the person that needs it and does exactly what that person needs, they will go and pass the person's bed who is going through it. So many people said that, like, wow, every time I got scared, the same woman stood next to my bed and then I was comforted. So it was like, really, if they're not on the medicine, and I did talk to one of them and said, Have you ever done it without being on it? And she said, yeah. She fell asleep and she had no compassion. And she said she was so annoyed by what was going on that then she knew she had to do the medicine because she tried it and the shaman's not going to force you. So the shaman was like, okay, if this is what you really wish to do, to not be on the medicine, then let's see. And she said it was so hard for her. And then she's like, really, the compassion that you have on this medicine is what's needed for you to help people. And if you're just in your sober state, you're going to be really messed up and exhausted by being a part of this experience. So then I'm like, I'm like, it's like completely pitch black, but I'm like, come here, I need to talk to you. Come here, I need to talk to you. And like this guy who's just wonderful. He was my angel all night. He comes over, he's like, sister, are you okay? And I was like, I forgot that you can't flush the toilet paper, and I clogged that toilet over there. He's like, okay, I'll go handle it. And then he goes over and, I had to use the bathroom within 20 minutes again. So I wanted to go back to the same bathroom, make sure I didn't break it. It was perfectly fine. It had been handled. And then I blew up that bathroom about 3 more times with During the Noble Silence. And I literally couldn't believe it. And then, like I said, me and that painting in the bathroom were vibing. So I was like looking at the painting. The painting was kind of talking to me. And it was more so my higher self and Mother Ayahuasca, but the painting was the face of it at that moment. And the painting, I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. There can't be nothing else in me. I'm getting up. And then it's like, no, sit back down. You've got 3 more. I'm in 3 more. 3 more what? Like, sit back down. I was like, oh God. And then I was healed of ever being embarrassed again in my life at that point, because it was like 100 whoopee cushions going off. It was like a symphony of whoopee cushions during the noble silence that I know it is so silent that everyone is hearing my ass blow out. So then I'm like pretty much cracking up in there because I'm like, wow, I was so afraid of puking. Well, Mother Ayahuasca showed me, because now I'm never going to be embarrassed to go to the bathroom, in a public bathroom, ever again. Ever again. I don't even care after this. And I was like, okay. So then after all of that was out, I went back to the bed and she continued working on my body, and it was ripping through. Like, it felt like, at points, felt like worms or something underneath your skin. It felt like needles under your skin. It felt like stuff ripping through the stomach. My stomach was messed up for all 7 days that I was there. And they also give you a colonic before. So I had already been cleared out. So this stuff, I don't know what they were getting out of me, because you had already been on a limited diet. I'd already had a colonic. The only thing, and then I'm like, what is coming out of me? Like, what is it? There's nothing left. And Mother Ayahuasca said, this is what we're working on. We're working on all of the stuff that you had put in your body, especially between the years of 2001 and 2005, which it is now 2023. Some stuff that's 20 or over 20 years old still having that effect on my body. And, a lot of the stuff that I did actually as a teenager, yeah, I did drugs, but I also did like robo tripping, like if you get high on cough syrup. I'm just telling you, kids, right now, do not do drugs, because 20 years later, you will pay for it if you if you ever do your real healing journey. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Okay? In no way, don't do it. It's done. Um, so then I was, laying on my side in fetal position, coping with everything that was going on, a bit shocked by the whole experience, because this is my first time ever doing it. And so I ended up, and I know so much of this video has been about this, which is just so ridiculous. But then I ended up seeing myself like as my 16-year-old self. And one of these times when I had taken a lot of these medications to get high when I was a kid, a teenager, I remember one night was just like so bad that I felt like I was going to die. And I remember just being like, damn it, I can't believe I'm going to die like this. This is so messed up. I really fucked up this time. And I felt a presence come in the room. And I always remember this day because this presence kind of came to me. But that presence was me last week on ayahuasca, me, myself. came into my own 16-year-old body, and I felt myself merge with my 16-year-old body, and it was me who soothed myself and saved myself that day. It was simultaneous time at work. Now, some of the other things that happened that night was I found my compassion and my heart busted open was because then once the music starts, and once the music starts, people really start purging. Most people were fine. The music starts, people really start purging because the ayahuasca works with the medicine, the music. And then it's time for the second cup. And they say if you can walk, take the second cup. Now, I would have opted out, but my higher self and Mother Ayahuasca said, get up and you're going to take that second cup. So I did. And then it ripped through me again. And I also had some healing from my ex boyfriend during that first cup. He had come to me and, let me know that he was okay, even though on the surface, to me, it doesn't look like he's okay. Him inside of his heart is okay. He also um, reassured me in those moments that I don't have to worry about him anymore. And, that he's sorry for the things that he did. And, it just gave me a greater perspective on the situation. Then the second cup is really when my heart broke open because, and this was when I had that experience about the recognition room and stuff like that. So then I just was, and so now one of my besties at Rythmia is this guy in his 50s from Texas who I'm not going to say what he works in, but he works in very high places. And he's like conservative and just like really, thinks TikTok is the worst thing. And, we're very, maybe on the surface, not the type of people who maybe would have become best friends. And I was just so grateful for him during this experience. And he was really going through it, getting real loud. He was yawning and moving and all the sounds like belching, everything so loud, so big, such a big presence. And I know probably a lot of people were triggered by it because they're feeling uncomfortable and they're hearing all his noises and they're like, shut up. But for me, every time he made these loud, intrusive sounds, I just felt like, damn, I'm so proud of him. I'm just so, so proud of him for being here. Because they asked before we did the medicine, okay, not in that ceremony, but in one of the classes earlier that day, who considers themselves spiritual? Who considers himself religious? Who doesn't believe in God? And like basically he was like the only one who just didn't consider himself anything and didn't even know, what, if anything, exists outside of this. So just to see him fully go full in on something that he was a bit skeptical about on the first night, people were kind of talking about spirituality and he was kind of like disassociating from his body. Like I could see him kind of leaving the body like, oh God, these people are crazy. But then to see him being going full in, it was just opening my heart to be like, wow, he is doing this. I'm so proud of him. There was another woman who was really like so afraid but to travel by herself, to do anything by herself, and she was just being so brave during this. And then there was another woman who was just very like afraid to share anything, and even though she wasn't sharing anything at that moment, those three people, when then one of the shaman assistants, this one woman, started singing because there's also a lot of live music where those people who are all under the influence of it and all these helpers, they're playing instruments, which is so beautiful. They sing. Some of the music is played also from a playlist, but it's a curated playlist by the shaman, and which is just incredible music too. And but she was singing, and as she was singing this song, I just started bawling, crying, and I was like, "Oh my God, I am so proud of these people!" And it really just fully opened my heart, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so, 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 so proud of these people for coming here and doing this. So then, as the night progresses, it gets Looney Tunes. There's a point where the medicine peaks and it is really intense. Now, by that point, I was already starting to kind of level out because I had purged one time, like a little bit of puke, but it was very little. And when I did, one of the helpers came by and gave me a piece of tissue. And I was like, oh, 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 this tissue is the greatest piece of compassion that I've ever experienced in my whole life. And then I was sitting there holding the tissue, not even wiping my face with it. I just loved it. And then I took the whole roll of toilet paper and was like, oh, oh my God. And I was just in love with everything. And I couldn't believe how beautiful everything was. And when I was just thinking of what am I grateful for, I was like, this. I can't even think of anything beyond this moment. Only this moment exists. Only this moment is what I am grateful for. I have never been so grateful for anything in my whole entire life. I've never felt such beauty in my whole life. And people are puking and they're shitting and and then my bestie, he really starts to go through it. And one of the other guys gets up. And now sometimes you hear stuff like someone talking, but that might not even be the words that they're saying. It might be your mind changing the words. So I'm not going to say 100% that this is what this guy said. One of the other guys gets up and asks the shaman, and he's like, please, there's something. It's brown. And they're like, don't worry, you're safe. And he's like, no, I know I'm safe. He needs help. And he was talking about another person. And then they're like, okay, okay. And then shortly after that, they end up going over to the guy who's like my big Texan bestie. And they start like doing, putting the oils on him, spraying the Florida water on him, spewing, they spit stuff out of their mouth to cleanse you. They're waving the leaves on him. They're using all of these different, shamanic tools to take the energy out of him. And he starts like crazy purging. Like it sounds like a demon, like coming out. It sounds crazy. And the whole time I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of him. And then like he's purging and it sounds crazy, crazy. And then we got the confirmation the next day when he was talking about his experience. And he said he had some type of brown entity on his heart that has been there since he was a child. And he didn't know until that night because he was also the person who didn't even believe in any of this really. And he felt it leave him. And the guy who ran up and asked for help saw it on top of him and saw it leave. People literally saw a brown entity leave him. Because this is like the real shit, man. This is crazy. So I was shocked that the next day they actually experienced that, like actually saw it. So then, I ended up having my miracle. I was so proud. Oh, and then that second cup ripped through me again. I mean, I know I don't want to keep talking about my purging through the back end. But you know how I've talked about this kind of thing with Elvis, where like some psychic told me I was Elvis in a past life, and I've never really believed it. When I went back out for my second round, I went back out to the bathroom. I didn't want to go to that same one again. I went to the bathroom that is next to the fire. And, if you're in there for a long time, they'll check on you to make sure nothing's happened. I was in the bathroom probably for like 45 minutes. This after already going how many times, and there was already nothing left in me. And she knocks and she's like, sister, are you okay in there? I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. And the floor is breathing and I'm holding onto the walls. And I'm like, please stop. I can't take anymore. And then I was like, oh my God, maybe I really was Elvis. I feel like this is Elvis died on the toilet. I'm going to die on the toilet again in this life. And, but after all of that purging was done, I was like, oh my goodness. Life is beautiful, magnificent. So then she told me what I was going to be working on the next day. And thankfully, this is what I mean. I'm so grateful for my intuitive sense and a lot of the work spiritually that I've already done, because it's given me the ability to be able to listen to my intuition and listen in those moments. So then she tells me, we're going to work on your father tomorrow, and we're going to work on healing your relationship with him. But I had already experienced such compassion, and I'm there holding my toilet paper, just looking around like, wow. And it's chaos. And I'm like, this is the most beautiful thing I have ever seen in my whole life. I have never seen something so beautiful as 40 people laying on the floor on mattresses, puking their brains out, crying, screaming, all of this stuff. I have never experienced something so wonderful. And then I had this like feeling of like, wow, I hope my dad gets to experience this. And I haven't talked to my dad in almost 20 years. I think it's about 19 years now or something like that. I had like cut him off from talking to me when I was 16 years old. And I literally was like, whoa, I cannot believe that I want the person who has pretty much caused me so much of the problems in my life and has been the root of so much of my issues, that I want them to experience the most beautiful thing that I have ever experienced. And I know if my dad ever does, he's going to be like, fucking Jen, she wanted me to suffer. Because it is really hard under the medicine. It is really, really, really hard. But the payoff. And then so I'm going to finish this video here. I'm going to do another video. The next one is going to be about nights 2 and 3 together. And then I'll do a separate one for night 4 because that's the one I totally went crazy town and needed my own exorcism. So, we talked about his exorcism that happened. I had my own exorcism on night 4. And I'm only calling them exorcisms. They're not. They also explain at Rythmia that these things, they call them packets. They say they're not demons. They're not entities. They're not anything like this. But you might see things coming out of people. Or you might see them traveling across the ceiling and going out the window. And these are just concentrations of energy. They're concentrations of these negative emotions that are, they just become concentrated, and your veil is very thin while you're on the medicine. So you're able to perceive it. So it's not a demon. It's not an exorcism. It's not an entity. It's not an attachment or anything like that. It's these concentrated of negative emotions that are leaving the body. I had my own. Now mine was not as like much. Mine was a bit more like emotional in the moment because it wasn't connected to something that has already happened in my life. It was connected to being in the room. And I'll talk about that when I talk about night 4. And what I'm going to finish on is Mother Ayahuasca told me that she needed to give me my miracle of healing my heart on night 1 so that I would be able to do the rest of it, so that I would be able to face the different things that I was going to face, and I would be able to have an easier time on these other nights. So that's why I needed that process. And the same thing for my bestie. He had a huge breakthrough in his heart that night. And Mother Ayahuasca told him the same message, which was also really interesting. We had a lot of parallels throughout this experience. And I'm so grateful for him, because we are very different people, and it was like a really good balance. And I'm just so happy for him to be able to go back to his family and be a better husband and a father. And really, like, so much of it is like, I know they talk about some people that don't like Rythmia say that it shouldn't be done in these very large groups, but the large group is what literally healed my heart. It literally made me understand like true love and compassion for other people. And I had a bit of resistance to that because I was afraid of people being shitty or hurting me or something. I have a lot of love for animals and stuff, but like the love I have for animals, I now have for people. And I don't know if you guys might have seen, I made this post a while ago, or maybe I've said it before, that like I hope to one day love people the way that I love animals, And honestly, after this experience, I do. And people that I had just met, to be able to get to that point is just incredible. And oh, and one last thing that was really cool. So my friend Chelsea, you guys know her. If you don't follow her, it's her name is Frankincensed on Instagram. She also holds classes. She's also a shaman, but not an ayahuasca shaman. She travels in the astral, and she works in the astral and does integrative healing and quantum healing using shamanism as the baseline for how she practices in the astral. So what was crazy is that people that I know that are shamans, because I'm lucky enough to know several, were coming to me throughout this experience. And at one point, she gave me a little hint of what was coming on the 3rd night. And she showed me, she's like, come on, let's go. Come on, I'm going to show you something. And she was just like laughing and being like, come on, you ready? And I was like, oh, I'm doing something now. I'll be there in a sec. And she showed me a womb room. So this room in the astral that is inside of a womb, and it's like a healing room, but it's a womb, and you can hear the heartbeat, and it's like the walls are made of like a womb. And it's like you can see like veins, and it's very like pink and warm and yellowish and orangish, and it's fleshy. And it was just so beautiful. And she was showing me, like, come on, I'm going to take you here in a couple days. So I also got like little previews of what was coming. So the next night I was going to work on the stuff with my father, which is I'm going to talk about in the next video. And then the third night was the Divine Feminine night, where I was then going to work on the stuff with my mom. So that's coming up in the next video. And guys, thanks so much for coming on this journey with me. If you are interested in doing ayahuasca, I 100% suggest that you do. And let the right circumstances find you. And truly, it is so worth the experience. If you want to experience it at Rythmia, it is worth every penny, because I 20 years of therapy would cost a lot more to still not open my heart in this way, on this level, and to remove things from my body that have been there my whole life. So, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.